I come to bat for Spotify when I feel like they're unjustly criticized for certain things. This one, I can't really make sense of.
I hate this. I personally hate this.
MEC, what's going down? You are back on the Music Entrepreneur Club podcast. DJ Payne 1. I'm here with Erinn Knight and Damien Ritter. And there's been a lot of crazy stuff going on in the music industry, as always. Some weeks I think are crazier than others, and this might be one of those weeks. To avoid some of the craziness, I think one of the topics we might discuss is the motto to make your own industry or build your own industry around yourself. One of the ways to do that is to get your music off the hard drive and out there into people's ears. So if you haven't been doing that, or if you just don't want to deal with paying for a distributor, don't pay for a distributor. Go to twolost.com. Use the code MEC, get 3 free months of premium music distribution, get your music up on all the platforms, get the free save, the pre-save links going, get all that stuff going, and try it out. No obligation, no risk. You know, music's not serving its purpose, in my opinion, just sitting around on a computer somewhere. So get that out. Beats, songs, whatever, get it out. The code is MEC, twolost.com is the distributor. It's the distributor Kanye uses. We're actually going to talk about Kanye today. But first, we want to get into a particular news article that I guess could scare some people. It's more of a, I guess we think it's a power play on UMG's part to kind of, I don't know, get into and monopolize the DIY space.
Just so y'all know what we're talking about, Spotify and Universal Music Group strike a deal for recorded music and publishing. That's the headline that Billboard has right now. Spotify presented to its shareholders, investors at their annual meeting, I guess at the end of last year, that their plan for growth was this thing called Streaming 2.0. And so UMG has now come in and brokered a deal with Spotify, and they are a part of this new Streaming 2.0 plan. And they have outlined a plan that has no specific amount of years of the partnership have been released, but they're a part of the Streaming 2.0. And so the things that includes are a new paid subscription tier. They're calling it Superfan, the Superfan tier. And with that tier, it's looking like you're going to get premium content, video content, access to more music catalogs, which is interesting to me because I'm wondering what that more music catalogs means. Like, who isn't on Spotify right now that they're about to add? I'm assuming it's going to be a lot of legacy acts. They're saying exclusive access to premium music. So I'm assuming that's going to be like a higher quality music, how Apple has the Dolby Atmos and the spatial audio. I'm assuming it may be something similar to that, or a deal with Dolby. They say they have artist-centric principles, which means that artists are going to be compensated more fairly. There's a direct licensing deal between Spotify and UMG Publishing for the U.S. and other countries. I don't know what that means, Payne. I'm sure that you could weigh in on that. And then bundling, you can bundle audio and video content. I heard speculations that that's a play that's going to be like Netflix is doing something with Spotify. I don't know if that's a speculation. They're trying to increase subscriber retention, deepen connection between fans, and then they're saying there's going to be exclusive releases of music, early access to music. So I don't know. I would love to get y'all's take on it. I have a lot of thoughts. I'll just share a couple of my thoughts. I think that it just gets nerve-wracking to me. Not even nerve-wracking. It's frustrating to me to see the big powers continue to strategize against the indies, because this seems like a very strategic play against the independent market share. even exclusive access to things like that seems very similar to what Even is doing and has been doing. The super fan name and tier seems like they just repackaged something that failed earlier when they were trying to do the licensing deal with YouTube to give more music access to creators. And that didn't go anywhere because they didn't know what they were talking about. We reviewed that maybe a year or two ago and it didn't do anything. And so now they're like, okay, let's just go to where everybody already is. I don't necessarily know if many people are going to pay for another higher, more expensive tier of Spotify. I listen to music more than I watch TV. I listen to music more than I listen to podcasts typically. And I do listen to some podcasts on Spotify, but I still don't want to pay more than what I'm already paying because I pay for a family plan, and going even more exclusively, I'm like, I'll just wait till the music comes out. So, those are my thoughts right now. Dane, Payne, I would love to hear what y'all have to say about this.
Sometimes I come to bat for Spotify when I feel like they're unjustly criticized for certain things. This one, I can't really make sense of, right? Like if these premium services like lead to an additional bucket of money that aren't available to independent artists, I think that's whack. But what would be more problematic is if they just negotiated a deal for a higher royalty rate and it eats into the pool of money that exists for independent artists, right? That would be a bigger concern, right? Because the money that Spotify collects, it basically gets divvied up via market share, to independent artists, to major label artists, things like that. I believe that their move to not pay artists for streams under 1,000 in any given year was definitely, I understand how that sucks for some artists, but it's really not that much money. So I was just like, whatever. It actually benefits some independent artists that are streaming over 1,000 because that money that essentially gets divvied up now between, artists that are streaming, and that includes independent artists and major label artists. But it is essentially, I think that was something that they did to give more money to the majors. So if these additional services create a new pool of money that only UMG has access to, and it doesn't eat into the money that's supposed to go to independent artists, I'm more okay with that, but it still sucks that independent artists don't have access to these premium services yet, right? We'll see, because the other majors are going to come to the table and kind of level up. They're going to want the same deal. I don't understand why Spotify would give UMG preferential treatment, and then Sony comes to the table and like, nah, like they are all going to get access to these premium services, and I hope that Merlin can come in and negotiate on behalf of independent platforms and get something close to this as well. Hopefully it's just a guinea trial period with UMG, and then but that remains to be seen.
That's my question though about the whole thing. Maybe it's a dumb question, but I don't know, the article seems kind of vague. Is this a new Spotify feature for every user, or because it's a UMG deal, is it specifically for access to some exclusive UMG catalog? Because, I
think it's just UMG.
It seems like it. So there are two problems. If it's just UMG, then why is that even? That's kind of ridiculous. So that sends the conversation in one direction. If it's access for everyone, then it just showcases the problem with allowing the biggest label on the planet to negotiate on behalf of artists who are either unsigned, signed to independents, or signed to any of the other labels, which has always been not the problem with Spotify, but it's been one of the major points of contention with Spotify. But no, if it's available just to UMG artists, then my question is, do fans of major label artists want the sort of DIY crowdfunding sort of features? Because they're just not used to it. This sounds like Even, it sounds like Patreon, and those are really just kind of part of the DIY world. I don't, like you're not going to go on and join Future's Patreon or like Sabrina Carpenter's Patreon You know what I mean? Travis
but
Scott.
major label artists are using Even though.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, because Even has deals with like, if I'm not mistaken, The Orchard. They have deals. So Sony, they've worked with independent distributors, but recently they're starting to do bigger artists, bigger plays to release. Like, I know of one big artist that they're about to do. Like, this artist is major, major. Their next album they're about to release early. So I know they have major label deals. I can't speak to that artist, who that artist is, but they're on Warner, not UMG. But I think I'm looking at this article that Spotify actually released on their For the Record platform, and it says that the agreement further broadens the collaboration with Spotify and both our labels and music publisher. And then it goes down to list all of those things, and it's talking through it. It gets some quotes from Daniel X. So I think it's exclusively right now with UMG and Spotify, which is, if you don't know, just go, for those listening, UMG is a huge amount of labels. So it's a ton of artists that are going to be covered under that for sure. But it's still, as you say, Payne, I think that I hate this. I personally hate this because, yes, they probably will come to play with Warner and Sony and, and then all the indies and hopefully independent distributors via Merlin. But how long is that going to take? To what extent? And this is going back to that long ago conversation that we had. How do we know that everybody's getting the same percentage? How do we know that the rev share is breaking down the same? If it's always UMG gets to go have the conversation and there's no real transparency there with how the money is being made, where it's being accumulated to, what it's being spent on, and then how it's being dispersed, how do we know even the indies have the proper rev share? Right now, they're literally showing us, hey, not even the other majors have what UMG has. Do you know what I'm saying? And so I think this is interesting.
Yeah, from what I understand, that the royalty rates, currently are the same, if not like very, very similar. Like, that's what I've been told by folks high up that have high positions in the industry. So I'm assuming this is a play that just kind of, these are new tools and features they want to roll out. A lot of times tech companies, they roll out things in phases and they want to test things out, see how it goes. And, it sounds like they're just giving UMG a head start. Because, again, I can't imagine them not rolling this out to the other majors. And to be honest, I can't imagine them not rolling this out to like independent artists eventually too, via Merlin. We do have people that negotiate on behalf of independent artists. And because market share for independent artists continues to rise, they definitely don't have as much power as the majors, but it's not nothing. So, hopefully, even if it's last to the party, hopefully independent artists get access to these new premium services. Until then, you still do have stuff outside of Spotify, whether it's Even, and I've always said it doesn't even really matter the platform. It's more about, the idea, because you can execute like a gated strategy, off of Even too. You can do it on your website, be it Shopify, you could do it Patreon. There's a lot of different platforms to pretty much exercise the same thing. You just have to, build the community that actually has an interest in, your music being held for a period of time only to your core fans before being put up on, streaming services. So
I think that's a really important note, Dane, because I managed a group that charted on Billboard independently because we did a gated system with Singles Music. So shout out to Singles. They're based here in Nashville. And we just basically released it as a special feature for them, for artists, for our fans to buy once they like joined this like private Instagram community. Like we started a whole new Instagram page. We started a text community. So there's that. Like you said, there's even Bandcamp, Shopify singles coordinates with Shopify. That's why it worked so well for us to do bundle deals. There's a lot of options. It's more about building the community. And I think that that's why when they say super fan, I feel like it's preying on what everybody's been building. It's preying on that, like what we've talked about for years. It's just like, oh, super fans, Spotify. It's interesting. I don't know I don't know if you can be, it's like getting somebody to pay a premium to be a super fan on a platform for mass consumption isn't actually being a super fan. So it's just like, it's like a Spotify super fan. And I don't like that because still the majority of the revenue is going to go to Spotify and or UMG. It's still not going to land on the specific artist, you know?
Yeah. I mean, again, major labels, bigger companies always late to the party and they hijack certain words, whether you call them super fan, core fan, whatever it is, independent artists have been catering to their most loyal customers for a very long time. So they just late to the party. Super fan has become a buzzword and they're trying to jump on late. I do want to highlight Single. We're actually building Single into Big Jaw's website. We were using a platform called Moment to release our web series direct to fans, but we're deciding to build it out on his website. So Single is not a separate website, but it's not a separate website. It actually is an application that latches on to your Shopify and allows you to build out, sell the music direct to your fans. And they started as just selling music, but now you can do video. You can launch subscriptions. You can do a lot of the same functionality as Patreon. So shout out to my guy, Tommy, who's currently working on our website. He's the owner and founder of Single. And I think they're thinking about things the right way. And I like the way that it's just a Shopify application as opposed to like going to a third party site to start building out. Because again, you're always taking some kind of risk when you don't kind of own the whole experience. And with Single, you can own that entire experience and build it out yourself on your Shopify store. So shout out to Single.
Yeah, I love that. Like I said, I feel like they've been early to the party and they've continuously adapted because we charted on Billboard and we charted on, it was a whole campaign and it led to like a lot of boom, boom, boom because it was a new group. It was a reformed group. They were coming back together. I think that was in 2022 we did that or 21. And I remember seeing Tommy at Music Biz the following year. And I was like, yo, thank you so much. Like, because of your platform, I have these independent artists charting on Spotify, charting on Billboard, because it was like the one single that charted on Billboard led to people being so excited about their album. And it really set those artists up to do what they're doing now. So yeah, I think Single represents to me a company that really understands artists, but also what the business people need. Again, like you said, shout out to Tommy. He's been on both sides. So he gets it and he's getting it from an experiential standpoint and then continuously building. I think a lot of times people have tools and they have solutions for artists or music business people, but they don't really understand what we need, or it's a solution based in a moment and not something that's progressive. So yeah, I think Single's doing well. And this is obviously they're not paying me. I don't even work with artists anymore like that. And then Dame is already working with him. And he's paying for the product. So it's not like there's any benefit for us. I think that we have to continuously share tools with y'all because that's the only way that we can keep up. It's like independents win because we're innovative and because we're different, but we have to know the tool sets that are around. We can't just be using our brain because we're going to fall short and fall behind because other people are using tools to accelerate what they're doing.
So Single, I think even, can report to Billboard now too. But Single was the first to do it. We sold a lot of CDs direct to fans early in the days of Funk Volume via our website, at shopping malls, at shows and things like that. And we couldn't report any of those sales. So maybe
Your physical CDs?
Yeah, we didn't. We didn't.
We used to report directly Like
Yeah, well,
before it was digital, we would, and then the Billboard, what was it? They would call it, was it SoundScan back then? Now it's Luminate. SoundScan would call us and be like, can you verify these numbers? And then they would just ask me random questions. I feel like the old age of how you verify stuff was really funny, but like we used to report our physical CDs.
yeah. But single just made it super easy to report, your digital sales that you sell on your own platform. And if you have a community that, supports what you're doing, these days, it doesn't take that much to chart. Like it could be a nice little PR win for you to chart, for the week that you're putting out your music, just add that to the story and the momentum that you're building to try to turn a few more heads. So I think it's worth looking into. So check out Single. I think it's single.xyz.
Yeah. Okay. Just on that point, Dane, for us to chart, I think we sold, like our goal was to sell 1,000 of this single, and we sold it for $2 because it was never coming out, right? We were like, this is never coming out. And I think we ended up doing either 1,300 or 1,600. I can't remember. And that caused us to chart. But because we charted, we said, okay, anybody, as a thank you to the fans, anybody else who wants to buy this single, it's not even going to be available anymore. And we sold it on Shopify as if it were a merch item. And so we left it open for another week. And I think we sold 800 or 900, and then we charted again. And then we were like, boom, thank you guys so much. Single is gone. Album is coming in 2 weeks. We announced a festival. We announced like all these other things, and it was the momentum that we needed. And again, it was a conglomerate. It was a group of artists who already had their own followings. So some people were like, oh, I got to do 2,000, 10,000, 15,000. If you can sell literally 1,500 to 1,600 singles, you could literally, and that led to 300 reaching out to us, a ton of people under the WMG umbrella. They never ended up signing, whatever, but it was like so much momentum. It wasn't just on the fan side. It was on the industry side. It led to so much, and we really took that momentum moment. So I think if you've got a group of artist friends and y'all are looking to do a collab project and you're like, all right, I think I can get 150 fans. I think I can get 600. And again, this was back in 21 or 22. I think you could chart for even less at this point because the industry is so siloed. You could probably sell 600 or 700 singles and see yourself chart.
I would agree with that. So, we can wrap up this topic. Hopefully it's not as terrible as it seems. This move, I don't know if I can, doesn't sound like I can support in any way. It doesn't seem like it's positive for the independent community. But we'll see what these services actually are and who gets access to them. To be continued. So my topic is probably short. I just wanted to share an experience that I had the other day. I attended an event that was put on by an organization here in LA called Something Dope for the People. They do a lot of different showcases and different in-person opportunities here in LA, but they've expanded globally. So Something Dope for the People has been doing events in different cities. So if you want to check them out, just go to @somethingdope for the people. They provide a lot of really dope in real life experiences. But I was asked to be a guest for what I like to do the least in the music industry, which is music reviews.
How did they convince you?
I support what they do. We're building a solid relationship. Hopefully, Two Laws can partner with them in the very near future because they are building a pretty positive community. It was an all day event. I didn't come into the music reviews, but I caught the tail end. It was like a competition. It was called King of the Ox, and I guess they had different rooms, and it was a song competition essentially. So when I got there, they had just announced the finalists. So I heard like the songs that the finalists played and I saw who won the competition. There's a lot of talent out here. Again, with music, I don't have high expectations when an independent artist plays their music. No disrespect, but to me, it typically isn't that good. It's very, just kind of basic. It always is just like, and if your music doesn't get a reaction one way or the other, there's a huge problem. But the music that I was hearing was actually really good quality music, and I thought it was dope. But what I wanted to share is when we got into the music review, I encouraged everybody else that was in the room to give feedback as well, because at the end of the day, Like I might have a little bit more experience just because I've seen and heard and so many artists come and go over the years. So I've picked up, a few nuggets here and there about songwriting and things like that. But I really think it's important for you to get feedback from a lot of different voices that you trust and are genuinely giving you feedback that's trying to help you. So I encourage everybody in the room to give feedback. And I just thought it was dope that everybody gave like very constructive criticism. And I just felt like that's so important for artists to get, because as independent artists, sometimes you're just making music in your room. You don't really have a community. You're not part of a community. So you're just kind of trial and error in your room. You're not getting any kind of feedback. I think it's important to participate, whether you have an organization like Something Dope for the People in your city, or whether you can join communities like Digilog or 24/7 Artists. I would really encourage you to tap in, because I think, and I was just kind of seeing in real time how valuable a lot of the feedback was, because I'm not a technical person. Like my feedback's not going to be technical. It might just be from like a marketing standpoint or just a fan listening, but I can't tell you how to, Payne can tell you probably how to fix a mix or what to turn up, what to turn down. I can't really tell you none of that. But there were people in the room that were giving more technical advice. So it was supplementing some of the other, pieces of feedback that weren't as technical. And I felt like they got a well-rounded batch of criticism by being in that room. So shout out to everybody that came out to Something Dope for the People. And, some of the music that I heard was super impressive. I actually added it to my personal playlist from listening to it. So continue to build your community. I don't know if you guys, I just wanted to share my experience at Something Dope for the People. I don't know if you guys have anything to supplement that or to co-sign of what I just said, but having that community and getting feedback, I think is super important as an independent artist.
I think with the world being so siloed, I was listening to Trevor Noah's podcast, and he was interviewing the guy. I can't remember his last name. His name is Robert, but he wrote this book called Bowling Alone. And he talked about he wrote it in the 90s and it came out in the early 2000s, I think 2000, 2001. And it talked about the economic implications of us being so isolated and how, how a tyrant is going to come out of this and be terrible for our country and all these different things. So that he's like literally on the podcast reviewing this. And he talked about how people essentially will believe that there's no community available for them because they're not trying very hard to establish a community. And so what Dame is saying about coming out like to this event, Something Dope for the People, Game for the Gods. I saw literally people's like light bulbs turn on when y'all took advice from the audience. And then at the end, people just stayed. Not just Ray left, you ended up leaving. I was interviewing people. People just stayed on the block for literally hours after the event to connect with each other because they're like, yo, you do this, we're in the same city. And so I think that if you can challenge yourself to stop reinforcing the narrative that there's nobody doing anything like me, or I don't know any artists in the city, or I don't know anybody as hungry as me. Truth be told, there's probably somebody who lives on your block as hungry as you. Do you know what I'm saying? And that was something they were talking about, is that people don't know their neighbors. People know more about a celebrity that they follow or about somebody who lives in another city than they know their neighbors. And so I think that this is encouraging to hear you say that you went to this, but I think you are your own solution, and the people that help unlock the solutions inside of you are probably way closer to you than you realize. So I just want to encourage everybody, go look for an event to go to, and it may not be a music feedback thing. It may just be where other rappers or other producers could be. I run a community in Austin, Texas called Where Y'all At Though, and it's Black and brown folks who are in the city. We have a lot of tech people. We have a lot of moms. We have a lot of millennials who are looking to get in the mix with the new city. So I would just say, I want to encourage people, get out, go meet people, try something new, shake it up, because you never know what's going to happen. Go to a conference, pay for a conference, pay to go to South by Southwest. Even if you don't showcase, you don't have to pay for the ticket. Just get yourself to Austin. You're going to meet people on the street. Pay to go to, come to Atlanta this year when they have music vids. You don't have to go to the conference. You can network around, but go put yourself in new environments and watch how your life changes.
What I thought was really dope is nobody left the room after their music review. A lot of times artists, and this happens at showcases as well, like artists will pull up, they'll perform, and then they'll just leave. They won't interact with the crowd. They won't interact with the performers that come after them. They won't support the performers that came after them. There were people, everybody stayed in the room to both give and receive feedback. And I thought that was really dope. There was one cat that played his music, and we were playing it off of my phone, and he sent me the link. His link was a SoundCloud link. And I noticed that the song that we were giving feedback on, he uploaded to SoundCloud a year ago. And, my first reaction was like, yo, like, how is this song not out? Like, what are you doing? And it's even stuff like that. Obviously, that's not feedback on the song, but it's like you might need to hear somebody be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're sitting on music that you're not finishing and putting out. Like, why am I giving you feedback on a song that you started or uploaded to SoundCloud a year ago? It wasn't out yet. And, sometimes you need that kind of feedback. You need people to just light a fire under your ass and be like, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing?
Honestly, I think that's the best kind of feedback because it's the most straightforward. No, honestly, because other feedback will fuck you up because I'll put it this way. One, if you're in the music business, you don't necessarily know what you're talking about. And two, if you're not in the music business, you probably definitely don't know what you're talking about. And if you do know what you're talking about, you don't know how to express it, which is to say we all have opinions and everyone's opinion is valid to them, but it isn't always reality to music consumers at large. Humans are just hard to deal with. If I'm playing music to a group of people and not saying shit, just playing the music, their inhibitions are down, they're just listening, and you can look and see how they're reacting to it. That's probably the purest form of feedback you're going to get. As a DJ, people are always like, oh, play my song right quick. No one gives a fuck. It's actually going to kill the vibe because if they haven't heard it and it's not like the most undeniably amazing song that fits the format that I'm playing, it's going to kill everybody's energy. That's just how it is. Maybe it wasn't 20 years ago like that, but it is now when people have access to every kind of music they could possibly want at the snap of fingers. People all feel like curators and that's what they want. Or they want to hear music that is nostalgic. If I'm in a room with people and I say, hey, can you give me feedback? Can you give me criticism on this new song I'm working on? All of a sudden, they're thinking, oh, I got to be a music critic now. And so they just start doing this mimicry thing where whatever they've watched on TV, which happens to not be helpful models of feedback, now they're trying to cosplay as. And so suddenly they're what Gordon Ramsay is to food, but to music and being dicks. And, oh, you got to turn up that frequency on the, like, you don't even know what you're talking about. I've been going through this my whole life where you play somebody something and they just start tearing into it because that's what they think criticism is. None of that's helpful. What the fuck's up with that voice? What is that shit? What is that? What did you do? Do that. Speed it up. It's like none of that's helpful. That's not even practical feedback. And then you realize, feedback kind of from certain people, this type of feedback doesn't really matter. The type of feedback, I feel like Dame's feedback, I noticed this is a year old and it's on SoundCloud. Why? Where's your strategy here? That's far more helpful than turn that snare up because I might say turn the snare up, but there's a community of fans out there that don't give a fuck if your snare is up 3 decibels. They just like the song, but you're never going to get to the point where you're getting that real authentic feedback if the song is just living on one platform and not being spread across multiple platforms and exposed to people. So I feel like that feedback is better. And so that's why I always kind of, like, if people ask me for feedback, I just try to be as thorough as possible and give references. I'm not just going to share my opinion, and I'm not going to just share one opinion. I'm not going to be like, yo, turn that turn that distorted ass bass down. I'll say, hey, the bass is distorted. My preference is that I don't think it sounds great on this song, but it certainly has sounded good on other songs. I'm not telling you to necessarily change that. I don't think it's a deal breaker for potential fans, because there's so many. I mean, it's almost hilarious the way, I know Erinn has lived this a million times, where you discover a new artist or whatever, like for me, it was a lot of times I would hear a new artist and I was more open to weird stuff. And so I'd play it around my friends like, what the fuck is that? And then a year later, that artist becomes big, and the biggest fans are like, oh, you've never heard of MIA? I'm going to her concert right now. A year ago, you asked me what the fuck that bullshit was that I was playing. And it was MIA's Piracy Funds Terrorism mixtape. And now you're the biggest fan on the planet, and you're wearing a t-shirt and all this shit. Get the fuck out of here. So that's just the nature of humans. It's not something to get upset about. It's not something to get discouraged about. So I just want artists to be really careful when they're getting feedback or how they're asking for feedback. And if it's, a not so organic or authentic of a context for that feedback to be given, because it can end up becoming discouraging for a lot of people, not helpful or constructive.
And take it with a grain of salt. Like Payne is saying, people hit me for feedback all the time. I'm like, yo, if you like it, I love it, because I just have an opinion. It's just my perception. It's just my opinion. But if you really believe in this, I think you should just keep going with it and obviously refine. And they'll be like, no. I just want you to hear it. No, you don't. You really want me to give my opinion, and you're hoping that I'm going to share it around to my other music friends and that something's going to come of it. Because if I don't respond, then you're like, oh, you must have not liked it. It's like, beloved, just put the music out. Even for me, I talked about it maybe a month or two ago. I just started a media company, and it's just been so slow. My creative director has had some issues. I just brought on an intern. So I'm just now getting the first couple of episodes edited, and stuff was supposed to be out in December. And so even last night, I'm sitting there talking to my creative director. I just pulled up my phone, and for the first time in over a year, posted a video to TikTok, because I'm like, I just need to break this like wall where I'm like, I gotta wait for this to come out. The stuff is not going to come out on my personal page. It's kind of a different offering, more polished, more focused. There's a message behind it. But I think for me, even sometimes when it comes to posting on socials, I feel like it has to be well composed, because people have an idea of me, and I'm like, not that I'm trying to play into the idea, but I want to do well by myself. Like I want to represent myself well. And I'm just now in this practice of life where I'm just like, just do it. Everybody's like, drop the content. Not even when it comes to just well, I guess music is content, but just do it. You got to get in the practice of it. I remember when I first started this podcast, when I would listen back to myself, it was, you know what I'm saying? Nonstop. And I remember being super self-conscious about it, but then I was like, I just have to keep doing it. And now I think I speak a lot better. I'm more succinct. I'm still very long-winded. I know the guys don't love that, but that's just the way that I process the world. And so I feel like for any artist who's feeling held back, the only barrier is your perception. It's not real life. Like everything else, no fan is going to gravitate to that one song you dropped and it's not going to blow up. Just tell yourself that. But maybe if you drop 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 songs, you can just start developing a fan base. And maybe it does blow up. Who knows? But it's probably not. And if you can let that go and let go of the perfection and your connection to the outcome, there's a lot more that's coming on the other side, because you're going to build confidence behind what you're doing.
And the last thing that I'll say kind of ties into what Erinn just said, because when the cat that came up that was playing music that was uploaded a year ago, it made me talk to them again after it was done about music. There's a lot of people pursuing music, but there's not a very small percentage of them are doing it the right way, right? You're not even giving yourself a shot if you're holding on to music that, obviously he still felt good about the music. That's the song that we only reviewed one song. That's the song that he chose to get reviewed. So he still felt like that was actually going to come out, and maybe it just needed something. But he let a whole year go by, without really shooting that shot. So same with social media. You guys aren't even giving yourselves a chance at music. It's already a very small likelihood that you are going to be successful in music, but every day you let go by and you're not even shooting a shot, you're giving yourself even less of a chance. So if you are somebody that is showing up every day, doing something to push your career forward, you're giving yourself the best chance possible at something that, not a lot of people get to do. And that's just the reality of the situation. But if you say you want to do this, at least, shoot your shots every single day. If you're not doing that, then I don't even know. You're probably just wasting your time, in my opinion. So we can get into the last topic.
So this inspired me to kind of look back on. I wanted some updates on various legal goings on in the industry, and there aren't many. Like the lawsuit against hundreds of artists for that drum pattern from the Fish Market rhythm from way back in the 80s. No updates. It's going to court, and it hasn't gone yet, and we'll figure it out when it gets there. I was thinking about some of Kanye's recent legal trouble, and the only new information I found about the producers that are demanding money as they haven't been paid for their beats and production input contributions for the last two Vultures album is that there are 10 total, and there are some pretty high-powered attorneys weighing in on that particular topic. There are no updates internally with Two Lost, I doubt, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
Dame doesn't get the access to the Kanye panic room. So
that's not my job. Like this year, normally I'm, super proactive. I'm trying to, see what's going on, how I can connect and support other people. And I still do that to a certain extent. But this year, my focus is, hey, I'm doing what I'm getting paid to do. I
love that, Dave.
That's outside of the realm of my responsibility.
I wouldn't get involved in this.
If I start asking too many questions, it might put something on my plate that I don't want on my plate. So, I don't care about it personally. So, and it's not my job. So I, put that over there.
So then the other thing, and we've covered this too, was the Donna Summer lawsuit. And that actually was resolved, but that was resolved, I think, last year. In the case of the Donna Summer lawsuit, it was a sample clearance lawsuit. The state wouldn't clear the sample for Kanye because they didn't like his recent statements about a particular religion/ethnic group. But Kanye just replayed the sample and moved forward with it, which he got sued for, obviously. And so when they sued, his song Good Don't Die was taken out of distribution. So to me, that's a serious consequence. And what all of these situations have in common is that he's alerted and his team is alerted to the legal ramifications of him continuing with a copyright infringement action, and he continues to move forward anyway. Which to me is weird because Kanye is now allegedly a billionaire again, and he has the resources to hire people to handle all of these things and completely avoid the consequence of more lawsuits, spending more money, wasting more time. And I think the worst thing, because it's so public and it's an affront to his art, is when songs get taken down because of these disputes. So I think why move forward? But then I look at the music business as a whole, and that's just kind of how the music industry moves. They don't have permission for something. They say, fuck it, we'll ask for forgiveness, not permission, and move forward. It's like, well, you didn't ask for permission, and you were explicitly told that you didn't have permission. So are there consequences? Of course there are consequences. Even for someone like Kanye, he can still get a song taken down. Now, granted, that's at the hands of Donna Summer's estate, so it kind of takes one giant to bring down another giant. And in the case of these 10 producers who haven't been paid on the last Vultures album, they've been keeping their mouth shut, or I'm living under a rock, because normally I know names of people who are involved in these kinds of things, and sometimes people will even reach out and say, hey, can we come on the podcast and talk about it? I have no idea who those 10 producers are, and the articles don't name them. But recently, there's I don't know if this is I think this is an even crazier story. Yeah, this is an even crazier story than even 10 producers not getting paid. And Kanye is connected to it, but he's not directly named at this point. Might be in the future. He's not directly named in the lawsuit right now. But this is, Erinn, you told us about this. Travis Scott, SZA, Future, and some other companies are being sued by Rock Nation artist Victory Boyd and her publishing company Songs of Glory. And this is another copyright infringement case, not as straightforward as producers not getting paid for songs or sample clearance, but she's alleging that her song, Like the Way It Sounds, was used without permission, was reinterpreted, replayed, etc., for Telekinesis, which is, I guess, a Travis Scott song featuring SZA and Future. And it's a hit song. It's already platinum as a single. And it was off the #1 album, Utopia, obviously. So this is from musicbusinessworldwide.com. In the complaint, Boyd claims that she wrote the lyrics, then completed and published the demo entitled Like the Way It Sounds in November 2019, and then shared a recording of the song with Kanye West via a voice note. According to, what a crazy life to have where you're just sending voice notes to Kanye. According to the lawsuit, upon information and belief, Kanye West planned to release the song entitled Future Bounce, renaming it twice as Future Sounds and then Ultrasounds. All versions of these renamed songs were alleged to be based on Boyd's work. But then in 2021, when Kanye West released his album Donda, he did not release any one of these different versions of the song using Boyd's original work, which I guess Boyd has formally registered for a copyright. And they referenced the number there. What happened next was that Kanye West is purported to have played the song for Travis Scott. Boyd claims that she left her song Like the Way It Sounds in a studio in Wyoming, which Scott subsequently gained access to and began creating the infringing work off the original work. So that, I think, to me, that's the crazy part. Going into the studio, hearing the song, and then kind of recreating it and entirely neglecting to address that part, which has happened to me. I've had people steal songs out of a studio. Famous rappers, I might tell this story. A famous rapper stole my demo out of a studio and gave it to another rapper, sold it to him, unbeknownst to me, sold him the beat, the feature, and the hook. And then I got that record placed like a year later, and it was a problem. And I got screwed over. I should tell that story because that's wild. So this is why it's crazy to me for a number of reasons. And then it goes farther because it seems like Victory Boyd is pretty religious. Am I right? Because she's frustrated by the content of the song. It's not in line with her morals, which I want to put a pin in because that part's giving me pause. But Erinn, what did I summarize it correctly? There's a lot going on, and she's also suing some companies that synced. So Sync licensed the song because she's claiming that they were aware that there was a copyright problem.
Yeah, I think how she released all of this is super smart, is really in depth. Her legal team they've filed the lawsuit, everything's going down, and then she turned it into content. Unlike how when we covered that artist, I don't know if we should bring him up, but he's a producer that I really like who is trying to sue Doja Cat for stealing his song, and he was turning it all into content and didn't even have lawyers or any type of proceedings. So Victory Boyd is a very well-known songwriter in the songwriter world, but she's also a super well-known Christian singer. In the gospel world, she kind of does like a mix of CCM and gospel, but she's very different. Even her getting signed to Rock Nation was a whole thing because she was like, I'm not changing my sound. I'm saying Jesus in my music. And for those who know about the Christian industry, a lot of times, even if you're a Christian artist, they like you to make more positive music, not specifically religious music. And so she was like, like, take me or leave me. And they're like, cool, we'll take whatever you want. So she's making like worship music and coming out on Rock Nation. But when Kanye reached out to her, especially back when I think she's been writing with him since like 2017, 2018, it was when he was doing like started on the Jesus is King stuff. And so she wrote on that. She wrote on, I think, both Dondas. And then after, basically, she says she'd written like 30, 40, 50 reference tracks. Like he was flying her out to Wyoming, whatever, for these big writing camps, or he would just bring her out and be like, hey, you have this studio. And then he wasn't taking anything and she was getting frustrated. And she was like, I realized I'm not writing for Kanye West. I'm writing for my maker, my creator. So I'm just going to do this in devotion to him. If he takes anything, cool. But if not, this is like worship. This is a form of my spiritual practice. So I respect that, because it's like, I think that if we're always doing something for somebody else, it leads to emptiness regardless, because you're never going to be satisfied in the way that you're doing it. So apparently Kanye and Travis had a collective folder that they were working off of, which doesn't surprise me because they're common collaborators. And I know a lot of artists, especially bigger artists, they just have, I have a ton of artists who have tracks. I'm on a shared folder with them right now, and I get updates regularly, even if I don't still work with them. So that's a very common practice for people. So that doesn't surprise me. But yeah, apparently Travis Scott started working on that. She made it in, I think, 2019. He started working on it in 21 or 22, I think. And then it came out in 23, if I'm not mistaken. But the thing that I feel like is the smoking gun, because everything could be speculative, but he did a luxury, was it Chanel or whatever? I don't know. It was a luxury perfume commercial that he...
No, it was a watch commercial.
Oh, watch company. Yeah, it was a luxury watch company. That's AP. They did a sync, and the commercial featured him, Travis Scott, in it, but also the song. They had it heavily edited. Obviously, that song doesn't work for a commercial like that. And they sent her paperwork to sign off on the sync, because you have to on the publishing, I think on the publishing side, not on the master side. And she was like, no, like this song is, you know what I'm saying? So they said no. The commercial still came out. The song was already out. So there's all these different things. It's like, I think that there could have been, if you listen to the song, you can tell it's like she has the video of her recording it, and then you can hear it side by side. The content she released is so in depth and so intentional, and it's very interesting. She's truly a storyteller, and I really like how she mapped it out, because she's not even trying to slander them. She's just like, this is not what I wanted this to be. But with AP asking for the song, then asking her to sign off the song, she doesn't sign off, and then it all coming out, I'm like, there's no way they're going to win this in court. Do you understand? There's just no way they're going to win, because I feel like everything lines up against them. She has all the evidence of when she recorded it. And then in the comments, Big Sean was like, I was on this song too, and I just gave up on it. And so then people were like, wait, what? So, that happens often. I know where people abandon lawsuits, where that's happened to me, where it's like, certain things are happening. It's not worth the headache. It's not worth the frustration. But I think because of how massive this song is, how personal it was to her, and what her intent was behind it, she was like, as a Christian person, the integrity of my song and the value of what I'm bringing to this table is completely misconstrued. And I do know a lot of other Christian songwriters. Like I know one of Summer Walker's top songwriters, Taylor Hill. He writes for her. He writes for Coiler, right? But he has a boundary. He's like, hey, the songs that I write on, there's a certain limit. Like, I don't want you talking about X, Y, and Z. Like, if you decide that you don't want my track, cool. But like, to the point that I'm in high enough demand that you want me, I get to set the standard on the type of tracks that I want. I know like TM88 is like that with his production. I've seen him pull songs down because he's like, I don't like how they rapped on it, or I don't like the mix on this, and I don't like the way he does stuff. But certain people have standards, and they're like, I want it to flow this way, and this is the way that I choose to make music. And if this is a boundary I have and it limits my money, then so be it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting boundary because, granted, she didn't really specify what part of the song she had a problem with. You know, there's a lot of sex and drug talk, but Kanye writes a lot of degenerate lyrics, so you kind of figure it doesn't.
She's only on Jesus is King and the Dondas, though.
I
That's
understand,
why.
but we
Yeah.
saw what Kanye West did to a Nina Simone sample, right? So all I'm saying is, if I'm looking at that, nothing's sacred. That's all I'm saying. So that's the part that I was putting the pin in, because I'm like, I'm sorry, Victory, but what did you think was going to happen when you start just giving him? So the crazy thing is, Kanye's fandom is thorough. So they have all of these. So there's a Kanye fan wiki, and they show all these unreleased songs that Victory is credited on. And one of them is called Future Bounce. As she says, she said it was called Future Bounce and Future Sounds, and it's featuring Travis Scott. So there's this trail, right? It clearly connects Travis Scott to her demo. So I think that's good for her lawsuit. But in addition, her reference was called Like the Way It Sounds, and that lyric is exactly what they use in telekinesis. It literally says, do you like the way it sounds? You know the future of the bounce. So that ties it to 2 iterations of that song, which is a hell of a paper trail. Also, according to this article, it looks as though Travis Scott's people attempted to credit her and give her 8% writing contribution. I think, okay, so this song's already platinum. This is why I don't understand why people do this, because they do it with beats all the time. They'll drop a track with the beat, like even with Tweaker, with the Jello track. I did some independent research, and something's not right about the registration of that song. It's all registered to a rapper that seems to have nothing to do with the song. And I'm talking about the underlying composition side. And then what a lot of people were pointing out in the comments section was that there's a purchase your tracks today tag going on throughout the beat. And I can look at that and think, all right, cool. LiAngelo Ball and all them, they're not music industry people. So they record the thing on Veloco off BeatStars, whatever, and then they drop it and it goes viral. No one could have anticipated that. But you also think, all right, people who kind of, maybe you don't know the music business, but you know business. You can't just do that at that scale and there not be some things, some T's you got to cross and some I's you got to dot. But in the music business, people are just letting shit fly left and right. So it's weird. And then on top of that, with this track, it's platinum already. It's a hit. It's generated $1 million already, at least. And you've publicized those numbers. The streaming numbers are clearly visible, at least on certain platforms. And then you can audit other platforms for that as you're trying to build your case. Why would you offer, okay, we'll give you 8% of the writer's share after the fact. So you're getting 4% writer's share, 4% publisher split after the fact that we've made all this money. Are you happy with that? Goddamn well, she's not going to be happy with that. What a weird way to, that's just the legal strategy of that is pretty strange. I don't know. This is one of those times when I have to step outside of my love for the music business and look at it as maybe a third party would. And I'm looking at this like, what kind of world are people living in the music business? This is crazy.
They did the same with Lil Nas X when with the track when it blew up because it was a BeatStars track, and they were just like, "Oh, here's $50,000. Are you happy now?" And it's like, wait, what? You remember we talked about that ages ago? So
they
I don't know.
That
the industry is so. What'd you say?
That was for the producer. That was for Young Keo.
I think so. I mean, that's not how it went down. Obviously, he didn't take that, and it was like other stuff. But that's what the streets were saying. The Atlanta industry was saying they tried to toss him 50,000 and just be like, "Hey, we're good, right? We're good, right? We're good, right? Okay, we'll give you 50,000 and 2% on the publishing side. We're good, right?" So, I mean, I don't know how it ended up shaking out for him, but I know he got a lot more than that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, I know producers who. And this guy's name I won't say, but I know producers that took the 50,000 and missed out on $1 million. I mean, sick stuff. And I look at that as that's the devious, sick, exploitative, manipulative side of the music industry. I don't know what to call what we're talking about now with this case, because it's blatant theft. And then consequences. And the other thing too is when did this song drop? When did Telekinesis drop? Like a couple years ago, right? So she kind of let it, I think it was smart that she just let it play out and go platinum. And now there's all this data that's undeniable. So she can say, you know, like if she had gone super hard the day it dropped, there's not any data. They could say, oh, well, we haven't really made any money off of it yet. We don't have any numbers yet. They can't say that now. So if she says, I want the song pulled, if worst case scenario, right, she could probably get that done. I mean, legally, she has every right to get that done. Obviously, they don't want that to happen. So what is she going to do? She's probably going to get something big. But it's not about the money. If it's not about the money for her, I guess I don't know what she wants out of this. So we'll see. But if it is about the money, she can damn sure get it.
I think she wants the money. She wants the credit, but she probably also wants, I feel like she's probably doing this for an industry stance, kind of like, yo, you got to respect the songwriters. And she's in a powerful position to be able to do it. And I think that's why I'm like, her dropping the content, I think she's using her platform right. She's like, hey, songwriters need to be respected. If we have boundaries, if we have, you can't just toss us a little percentage. And she's in that place to be like, I don't need this money per se. I'm not checking her pockets, but it's like, she's like, I got lawyers. We're going to do this the right way. But I think it's like, I'm taking a stance to defend what I believe is my intellectual property. And it has a value beyond a dollar amount. I'm not saying she's not going to be happy about the money, but it's like, I have a value beyond a dollar amount and I need to be respected in that way. And it almost seems as if that's what they're trying to give her hush money. And I think that it's very important for people like me to see people like her to be like, yo, like, it's not about the money. Yeah, would love the millions, but like, y'all got to respect what we got going on.
I think the other cool plot twist was when she posted this on Instagram, Big Sean commented and was like, oh yeah, I remember that song. I recorded to that too before it came out, before the different iterations came out. I would love to hear the demo versions versus what came out as Telekinesis, just to really trace the DNA. But yeah, a lot of stuff happening at all times in the music business. And nowadays, I think Dame said it best. A lot of this is going to keep happening and it's just going to get worse.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the message, hopefully people that are listening to this is like, respect people's shit, man. Like even on social media, if you're one of these goofballs that's like taking content and throwing your watermark on like videos, that's so wild to me. Like, if you take a clip and, add some value to it, add your opinion, a different perspective, something like that, maybe, okay, but still credit the original person at the very least in the video. We recently had somebody like strip Ja's video and then request a collaborator like to Ja's account. I was like, what? People think that this is okay and normal to the point, like they probably really thought that maybe they were helping Ja or that's just allowed. Like you can't take people's shit. There's people that have been in the industry for a very long time, independent artists that I won't say his name, but there's a cat that does well and he's been in the industry and like didn't know that you couldn't just take somebody's lyrics, put it on there. He's like, well, I gave him credit. It's like, no, you have to get sign off and clearance. Maybe that wasn't enough credit. Maybe you didn't give him enough of a percentage of the song. You have to negotiate that before you actually put it out to the world. And again, like, some people are malicious, but this cat really didn't know. And I'm like, how do you not know that? How do you not know that you just can't take people's stuff, put it out, give them whatever, and you think that's going to fly? Like that, you've been in the game for 10 plus years. Like, how do you not know that? It's so wild. So stop taking people's shit. Like, it should be so like easy to understand. Like, but I think it's gotten so pervasive, on the internet where people are just, borrowing, stealing, whatever, other people's ideas, just because, they want, maybe they don't have their own ideas. They want clicks. They want, the views, they want the money from it, but it's stealing at the end of the day. Like you're
and
stealing.
they're stupid hypocrites. And the thing, I'm glad you said this, Dame. You brought up the C word. There is not a single field on this planet, a career field that any of us can think of that runs on credit. And somehow in the artistic world, people who would never a million years go to a job and work a 9-to-5 in exchange for credit seem to think that artists who are photographers, musicians, visual artists, painters should be happy with credit, and not just happy with credit, but appreciative of credit. Give me that art, I'll give you credit on my Instagram post. Give me that beat, I'll give you credit when I drop it. Can I use your song for the background of my film? I'll give you credit. Credit's never paid a single bill. I'm not saying credit's not a good thing, but if you're going to give me $100 versus credit on an Instagram post to 10,000 people, I'm taking the $100.
I think one of the biggest problems is, some of the biggest culprits of this are like stars, like with huge pages, right? Like Snoop Dogg reposts people's shit all the time and doesn't tag anybody, right? 50 does the same thing, but we love these characters, these celebrities. So people are probably just looking at that and being like, oh, I can do it too. So you might hear stories of Travis Scott, taking people's stuff. Maybe these folks just get so big, they think they're above, giving people credit because, they're so high up there. These are just this little,
I think so for sure. And they think that everybody's going to take a little payoff, or they're like, well, at least it's going to go platinum. That's why I feel like with Kanye, he's like, oh, I just want to put it out. I think Kanye's like, oh, it's just art. I'll put it out. If I got to take it down, whatever. Now you don't get it anymore. I think with Travis is more of a situation. It's like, I'm Travis Scott. I can do whatever I want. And then it's like, if it doesn't work out, okay, well, at least it went platinum. We got the money. We got the, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like AP is going to take that back the $1 million sync and the $2 million appearance fee for him to be in that. It's like they still got that bread. They're like, what they're going to pay to her is probably half of what they made off of that song, if that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I understand that credit doesn't pay bills, but from a social media perspective, like for social media content, that can go such a long way, right? Like if Snoop has a huge page, he's reposted Ja's content at least a few times. We probably could have gotten an additional 10,000 followers because, or maybe more, depending on how well the post perform. Like that could be valuable to us. I even see how ESPN doesn't tag a lot of, especially collegiate athletes. They post what they're doing in these amazing highlights, but they'll never tag them. They understand the value of that. They understand the value of just tagging somebody in these posts. So it is valuable. I understand that you can't pay with credit today, but especially on social media, if you can pick up 5,000 new fans, 10,000 new fans. Some of these pages are huge. Like you can turn that into dollars. So, that credit can be valuable.
Oh yeah, it's valuable. It's just not a form of payment. And I wish people would stop using credit as a form of payment. It's like giving people access to their own shit as a payment for you taking it. That doesn't make any sense. Credit is the least you can do, but it's just credit and permission are not the same thing. Credit and equity are not the same thing. Credit and payment are not the same thing. So having said that, make sure when you upload your music to Spotify, you are crediting people correctly through your distributor. So when you go to tolost.com and input the code MEC to get 3 free months of premium music distribution, make sure you're crediting the songwriters, the producers, the features, all of them. They're all songwriters who are involved in your music. Make sure you're crediting yourself properly too. And make sure all those splits are right. Like we were talking about at the music reviews, drop your songs. Don't just let them sit around for a year and then have Dame ask you why the hell you haven't dropped the song in a year at a music review somewhere in LA. Tolost.com. The code is MEC. We will catch you on the next episode. Sure, there's more crazy stuff going on in the music industry. We'll have more next week. Peace.